So I'm here to talk about source water protection. What is it? Why are we doing it? And if I do my job, by the time I'm finished talking to you today, not only will you understand source water protection more, you might also think that it's a good idea. So what is source water? Source water is any reservoir that we utilize for drinking water. It can be in the form of lakes, rivers, or groundwater aquifers, all of which are utilized in this watershed region for public water supply. Source water protection, then, is the collective effort to prevent overuse and or contamination of our municipal water supplies. This has proven to be a difficult message to get across to people. In the beginning, for me, it was hard for me to get my head around. The goal of source water protection, as it has been written in the regulations, is very specific. We are to produce a plan that protects the quality and quantity of our municipal residential drinking water systems. In the meantime, while we're doing that, if we happen to help the ecosystem of a wetland, or if we improve the quality of the lake water, that's all good, but that's not our purpose. Our purpose is to protect municipal drinking water. And so my first question to the ministry was, why just municipal water? Why not private systems and individual wells? The answer was, well, we have to start somewhere. 80% of Ontarians get their drinking water from municipal drinking water services. And I'm hoping if we do our job good and we develop a plan to protect municipal drinking water systems and it's effective, I hope that the province would then reach out to the other 20% of Ontarians who receive their water from private wells. Protecting source water is essential for our health. While more prevalent in development countries, threats to human health as a result of drinking water contamination also happen in Canada and, in fact, Ontario. 7 people died in Walkerton and 2,300 became ill. Preventing contaminants from entering water sources is an effective way to ensure clean drinking water and prevent human disease. Conventional water treatment methods cannot effectively remove many hazardous chemicals. We're pretty good at protecting or at treating pathogens at source once it's in the water, but we aren't too good at treating chemical yet. Well, it costs money to protect water sources, and the province is investing heavily, significant dollars and resources to source water protection. The investment generates income, vitality, and growth. Economic benefits of source water protection can be measured also in cost savings. According to the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, remediating groundwater can be 40 times more expensive than protecting it at the source. In this instance, an ounce of prevention surely is worth a pound of cure. I think the final bill for Walkerton was over $64 million. Preventing contamination at the source also reduces the cost of treating water. We've become quite good at treating water, but it's an expensive process. There are also economic benefits associated with protecting water quantity. Changes in our lake levels and rivers can have a dramatic effect on power generation, manufacturing, trade, and tourism. So, who manages our water now? First, we have the federal government. They have direct responsibility for navigation and fisheries, water on federal lands, like national parks, waters and territories, and for the First Nations, and boundaries and transporter waters. The province have the overarching responsibility for managing water within their boundaries. And they share federally responsibilities with interprovincial water issues, agriculture. Within this watershed, there are 52 municipalities that are in our watershed region, 23 of which have responsibility for delivery of water supply and wastewater treatment. This is because in the regions, water and wastewater is dealt with in the region, and the lower tier municipalities don't get involved. And in the county of Simcoe and the counties of Dufferin, it's the lower tiers that handle water and wastewater. And I'm not a big fan of flow charts, so I'm I find they look like a maze. So I'm going to use this metaphor to try to make you understand who's involved in source water protection. So first we have the Ministry of the Environment. That's the conductor. Minister Gerritsen and his staff. And they're responsible for the draft legislation, developing the policies, providing funds, and coordinating the government approach. The Ministry of Natural Resources also play a part. They would be like the sheet music. M&R is taking the lead in the water quantity side, and the funds flow through them to the conservation authorities. The authorities are the instruments, coordinating the plan, developing and bringing stakeholders together. They maintain, plan, monitor, and report progress. They provide technical information to municipalities, and they provide education. And finally, the musicians are the municipalities. They're going to take the tools of source water protection and work together with their residents to make these plans go through. Walkerton was 8 years ago. Why are we just getting to this now? Well, a lot has happened prior to source water protection. Justice O'Connor recommended a multi-barrier approach, and many of those barriers have already been addressed under the Safe Drinking Water Act. Treatment, testing, distribution, and emergency response. What I refer to as the reactive approach. So if a contaminant gets into your treatment plant, the treatment plant will deal with those things. So that has all been done and is looked after under the Safe Drinking Water Act. Source protection is under the Clean Water Act, is more proactive. Why let the contaminants get to so they have to be treated? Why not protect the raw water source before it ever gets to the plant? And hopefully these other safeguards that we've put in place will never have to be used. So now I'm going to get a little bit more of a local perspective and help understand how this region works. We have a committee. You see many of them there. I have, many of you know Dave Ritchie. He's one of my committee members. There was 23 of us in the room, and we represent all different stakeholder groups. Very committed group of people. And there's from agriculture, we have an aggregate rep, we have manufacturing and developing, we have environmental people at the group, and we have municipalities represented. The committee is fortunate to have a very dynamic and resourceful team of professionals that support us as well. Geologists, hydrogeologists, communication specialists. They provide us with quality data and quality product. So this committee that's supported by staff, we're working on this source protection plan. It was about 1 year ago today that I was appointed as chair, and around Christmas time when we finally got the committee members together. And this was created in order to complete Justice O'Connor's list of recommendations in the wake of Walkerton. So the source protection planning progress looks a little like this. Year 1, which we've just finished, we're laying the foundation. We're established the committee, and we've gone through the terms of reference. We've just actually this week approved the final draft of the terms of reference to go out for consultation. The terms of reference it's a work plan. What are we going to do? Who's going to do it? And how long is it going to take? And how much money is it going to cost? So we've got that work plan done. Years 1 and 2, we're working on assessment of threats and preparation of an assessment report. Year 3 to 5, we prepare the source protection plan, including policies that will address threats to our raw drinking water source, quality and quantity. And then after 5 years, we have to implement the plan, monitor, inspect, enforce, and review. There was a lot of emphasis from the province when they wrote the Clean Water Act on 3 key elements. We had to have it locally driven, it should be science-based, and there should be an emphasis on public engagement, communicating with the public. So here are the 19 source protection regions, each with a mandate to develop plans for their local region. We're all very different. I'm sure you can imagine that a plan for Lakehead that has 2 drinking water systems but has to deal with major shipping corridor threats might have a different plan than the Toronto region with its massive population, or the Raisin South Nation region, which has to deal with both international and provincial boundaries. We must be mindful, however, that our region is defined by watershed boundaries and not by municipal boundaries. And some municipalities have as many as 3 regions to deal with. So we have to make sure that the edges of all the plans mesh. And this slide emphasizes the local nature of the process. But we're only interested in our region. And this is the region within the Lake Simcoe, Southern Georgian Bay Lake Simcoe region. It's a big one. It's about 11,000 square kilometers. It encompasses 4 watersheds: the Black Severn, see if I can do this, the Black Severn area, Severn Sound, the Nottawasaga Valley Conservation Authority, and the Lake Simcoe Conservation Authority. All in all, there's 52 municipalities in this region, 3 First Nations communities, and we do have a First Nation representative from the Chickaning sitting on our committee, 320 municipal wells, and 17 surface water intakes. We're rural and we're urban. We go from the GTA to cottage country. This region has more drinking water systems than any of the other regions in the province, so it's a lot of work to do, and we're a very busy area. The other thing that the province said is we have to develop a plan that is science-based. We don't just draw lines on a map arbitrarily. We have to understand the pathways to water sources, how water moves through the ground, and how much water we have, how much we're currently using, and how much we will be using. So this slide emphasizes different things that are vulnerable areas. The first one is a recharge area. We have to map out all the significant recharge areas that help keep our aquifers healthy. The second one is vulnerable aquifers. That could either be soil conditions or an aquifer that's close to the surface that makes it more vulnerable for contamination than, say, a deep aquifer that's under a lot of clay. The third one is a surface water intake. We need to identify how the water moves and how long it takes for a particulate to get to that intake. When you're talking about surface water, of course, contaminants would move a lot more quickly through the surface than they would to the groundwater source. So we talk in terms of hours. The times of travel is in hours. And the final one, or the wellhead protection area, those are areas, again, where we have to measure the flow of the aquifer and measure how long it will take for a particulate, a drop of gasoline that gets put on the grass. How long would it take for it to infiltrate into the wellhead protection area? So those are the areas that we're going to map. The next thing we have to look at is threats to our drinking water sources, and we're all guilty of these. There's transportation corridors, irrigation, pollution created, overdevelopment. So we're doing an inventory of all these potential threats in our source protection region. So from these 2 sources, we come up with a risk assessment. A vulnerable area and risk to municipal drinking water will be identified in a technical assessment report. The Source Protection Committee will then take this assessment report and develop strategies to prevent new risks from occurring and reduce existing risks. So what we take here is if you have a significant threat that's in a vulnerable area, it becomes a high level of risk. And those were the areas that our committee will be dealing with. The last piece of the puzzle that the ministry was telling us that we had to take seriously was public engagement. And it's been really hard to get people excited about source water protection, but we're trying. Letters to several thousand residents living near municipal sources of drinking water have been sent out. We've held numerous open houses and workshops about source water, the Clean Water Act, to solicit source protection members and to educate the public about money that's available for them within wellhead protection areas and intake protection zones. We've had 10 public meetings for stakeholders to form the committee, 6 for education and outreach, 4 for the terms of reference, and dozens to other municipalities to help understand the process. We've advertised dozens of times in the paper to solicit for members and to get input into the process and invite to different events. We've mailed out to residents, community centers, chambers of commerce, and municipalities. And we've gone door to door in vulnerable areas, leaving information and material behind if no one answers. We have a website, and we've started a mailing list for those interested in staying informed about the process, so we can personally keep in touch with them. And if anybody wanted to be on that list, we could take your name over at the table, and we'll keep you informed of the process. And finally, we're at events like today to help educate the public and let you know what your Source Water Protection Committee is doing for your area. Thank you.